Hi there, so here I am on my Mac laptop, and I'll start by going to the GitHub site, github.com slash pholomans slash Vertigo. And I'll download, or I'll show you where to download a package. This first part here is the source code. You can take a look at that. A little blurb about Vertigo. The screenshots from this version. And the packages here. This tutorial is what I'm making right now, and some notes on how to download and do the development yourself if you'd like to take it and modify it. So I'll take a look at the packages. I have a Mac, so I downloaded the Mac OS. I already did that, so I'll just go down here to my downloads folder. There we go. I drag Vertigo into your applications. There it is, and I can unmount that DMG file. So now I can go into my applications and run it. The installation is about that easy on other operating systems as well. Here it is. I'll just rename it 0.6 so that I remember. Now let's see what happens when I click it. The Mac sometimes has, just like Windows, has security protocols in place for malware. So here it says it can't be opened because it might be malicious, but we know it isn't. So we'll go into, on the Mac at least, into System Preferences under Security and Privacy, and we can see here it was blocked. So we'll just say open anyways. Now on Windows you'll get a number, are you sure? And you'll just say yes I am. So here it is. It starts up in the standard view. Here's the globe. I'm actually pinching and zooming in a gesture on my trackpad on my Mac, and that works fairly well too for that. I'll show you, let's say, here's a base map image from NOAA satellites. There you go. So a number of base map images. This whole scroll window here is pre-filled with example data sets. Now in a future version, we'll make it so that you can add and edit the properties of data sets yourself and make your own projects. But right now it's loaded this demo project, demo.vrtx, as a placeholder for when it starts up. And so a project contains a bunch of data sets and a bunch of areas that you're interested in looking at. And there's this button here that we can use to see more of the view. So let's say we wanted to look at sea surface temperature. Well, I just single click that in the entry, and then it starts loading. And you can see the network progress down here at the bottom. It's almost done. Here's your color bar. Down on the bottom right there is the cursor tracking. In the middle here would be a credit saying the data came from somewhere. If there's enough metadata in the file, then it will determine where the data came from. So let's say if we went to monthly chlorophyll, there we go. It's coming from known as this. And there are other geographic base maps we could look at. The intention of the base maps are to be used in future versions when we're going to have layered data with base maps. So there's that blue marble. There's the bathymetry version of the blue marble. Here's one that looks like an atlas. So we'll see that in future versions being more useful. Here's the ability to set here's air temperature. This is model data. This is the ability to change the level that you're interested in. This is the surface level, or a little bit higher up than surface. The other model data comes from, say, Alaska, and it also has possible levels that we could go down, so at the surface or at depth. So that's the level. We could change the time index here. Same with the gap filled For example, sea surface temperature. We could change the time. Let's say I wanted to go back a year. So the date I'm on is at the bottom. So let's say I go back a year, 2019, and look at the same day a year ago. We'll let that load for a second, and then we can advance the time step. We can go to the previous one. If we want to click and zoom, it's a double click to zoom in, and that's on the left mouse button. And if I want to zoom out, I can just double right click and it will zoom out and recenter on that spot. I can also double click these area labels down here in the list. So say I want the North Atlantic. There we go. South Pacific. And it loads the data. Here's the zoom slider here, a little bit faster control. And you can also use these north, south, east, west arrows for navigation. Now the menu up here that I showed before, it's in dark mode right now. So if we say, what's the shortcut? Command D. On Windows it will be Control D, and on Linux I think it's also Control D. On the Mac it's Command D. So here I go. There's light mode. It's a little bit more contrast. I like dark mode for my eyes. I can set the view size, as I mentioned in my presentation. Command 1, 2, and 3 for square, 4:3 and 9:16. Good for keeping snapshots consistent. Let's say I wanted to do a snapshot. Let's go to Australia and center that and then do a snapshot. So I'll go up into File, I'll save that. It gives me a default file name, which is useful, and then puts a file extension on the end. Now I can change that. If I just change this to PNG, I can also use TIFF or GIF or BMP, and so I can save that. And what you'll see, I'll just clear the desktop there. There it is on my desktop. What you'll see is the exact view that you had when you were in Vertigo. So let me kill that. What else? There's a few more options in the view menu here. There are fast keys for rotating. If I do Command Option and then hit these fast keys, I can move around and zoom in and out and so on. There's full screen mode, so Command F to go to full screen mode, which is nice. And I can show and hide the graticule. So there we go. Auto select date and time makes it so that if I'm looking at, say, December 18th, 2019, and I want to go to, well, what's the chlorophyll on that same time, I can just enable that mode. And if the chlorophyll data set has a time step near that, we'll find out. Let's see. So December 18th, 2019. Let's see if it oh, look at that. So the chlorophyll data set actually has an available time step on exactly that same time. So we can now sort of quickly click back and forth between the, did I do weekly? Yes. So the weekly and the SST and the chlorophyll. Oops, that's the monthly. That's the water clarity, which is a different parameter. So that gives you an idea of what you can do. Oh, let's take a look quickly at the imagery. I'm just going to turn off that auto select date time. This is back in, what is that, 09, September. And true color, I think it's coming from NOAA 20 of Australia. I always like looking at Australia because it's so beautiful. Colors. We also have, if we take a look at North America, We also have true color coming from or actually not true color, geocolor coming from the GO satellites. That's a nighttime view of the geocolor. Let's go to the East Coast view. That's the goes east. Now I can pick a time in the day. So if we're on 12:20 and it's 8 a.m., that's nighttime where we are. So if we picked the day before at say 2021 UTC, we get partly day, partly night. West Coast is in daylight and the East Coast is in darkness, and you can see that the geocolor is switched modes to show city lights there. So there you go, that's geocolor imagery as an example. Let's see if there's anything else that I was going to say. Here's the help menu. The help dialog gives you some of what I've been talking about. View controls, snapshots, future features. So here's the ability we want to have the user have the ability to edit dataset specifications and add new ones, and save project files. Want to improve the network speed. Want to start testing with other projections like Polar, Mercator, possibly level 2 data files. We want to have layering, of course, that makes sense with the base map imagery, data on top of base maps, and the ability to search and discover in Threads data sets rather than having to go to your browser and cut and paste a URL. And also the creation and saving of animations. So if we were to look at this data set and do one time step before and let it load. Actually, let me zoom in a little bit so it's not having to load quite so much data. And another previous time step. And then I can sort of demonstrate what an animation might look like. These are 10 minutes apart. So if we could animate a number of them together, we could probably an option where you say something like from start to finish times and stepping by some number of time steps per frame, and then create me an animation. So it will do that. That's the idea that I'd like to implement. So we also have an about dialog, which if you are wanting to report an issue, then it would be good if we had this dialog information, the Java runtime, the operating system that you're on, and so on. I think that's pretty much it for the demonstration. I would just like to mention that the file menu has this open and close command also. If you open a new project, you would need to have a project as a Vertigo XML file, and the way to create them right now, before we have the ability to do it in the program, in the application, is if you take a look on this GitHub site and you go and hunt for that demo file, demo.vrtx, it's easy to do. Just say go to file and type demo. It's that first one. Take a look at that format. You can just cut and paste that into a text editor and start modifying things. So if you want to put a different, you can just duplicate an entire section, and it's reasonably easy to figure out. You put your URL in there of your data set on Threads or ERDAP. Here's your variable. There's the minimum and maximum for the color bar. There's your color bar that you want to use. And this is the category it's in. It's a scientific data set. You can see these are all things called dataset surfaces. And you can go down and you can see that there are also tiled web map surfaces coming from tiled web map servers. A little bit trickier to get some of those parameters correct, but can be done. And then further down you have the areas that are being shown in that lower area list. So whatever areas you're interested in, you can copy that idea. And if you want to just cut and paste that into a text editor, you would just click this raw button here and just highlight the whole thing, cut and paste, and then save it. And then you'll be able to open that in the file open, and it will replace all the data sets here in all the areas with whatever your specification that you put in your XML file. So all this will become easier in the future, but that's the way it is working right now. I think I covered all the menus and all the options. So there you go. That's your demonstration of Vertigo, version 0.6. Let me know if you have any comments and suggestions. Let me know how well it works for you. I've got the email addresses under the help file, peter@Taranis, and also ccing coastwatch.info@noaa.gov. Thanks very much.